So today we're going to dig into a pretty wild story, a cosmic crisis actually from the Hittite Empire. Now these guys were a major power back in the Bronze Age. And this whole story, it comes to us from a single clay tablet preserved for thousands of years. And it reveals a worldview that's, well, it's fascinating and surprisingly fragile. Okay, think about this for a second. What if the moon just fell out of the sky? For us, that's pure science fiction, right? Movie stuff. But for the ancient Hittites, oh no. This wasn't just some crazy hypothetical. It was the real deal. The basis for one of their most dramatic myths. A story that basically explained the very nature of their entire universe. All right, so our story kicks off not with a war or a famine, but with something way more fundamental. We're talking about a full-blown cosmic crisis. I want you to picture this. You've got the bustling Hittite city of Lycina, people going about their day, and then, bam, without any warning, the moon god himself, his name was Kashku, he literally falls from the heavens and crashes right into the middle of the city's marketplace. Just imagine the chaos. Now, it's super important to get this straight. To the Hittite mind, a god falling was not some poetic phrase for having a bad day. Nope. This was a literal, physical event. We're talking about the sacred order of the universe being violently, completely broken. It was an absolute catastrophe. So you've got to understand, this whole thing was happening on two different levels. On the human level, you bet there was sheer panic in the streets. I mean, of course. But on the divine level, the problem was so much worse. The entire, carefully structured cosmic order, their whole cosmos, had just collapsed into total chaos. A sacred being had fallen into the messy, everyday world and had been polluted by it. Now, an event this big, this catastrophic, well, you can bet it didn't go unnoticed by the other gods. And that, of course, brings us to the divine reaction. Let's talk about the wrath of the gods. So a disruption this massive gets noticed way up high from the celestial throne of the king of the gods himself. He's the ultimate guardian of cosmic balance, the mighty storm god, Tarhunt. The ancient texts tell us that Tarhunt became enraged. But listen, this wasn't just some simple temper tantrum. It's better to think of it like the universe's immune system kicking in. It was this righteous, divine reaction to a fundamental system failure. A critical part of the cosmic machine had broken, and Tarhunt, well, he was the guy responsible for fixing it. So what do? How does the king of the gods even begin to respond when a piece of the cosmos just falls off? Well, that brings us to the mission to set things right, the sacred intervention. Okay, so Tarhunt doesn't just fly down there and handle it himself. No way. Like a true commander, he delegates. He puts together a divine response team. First up, his deputy, Habentali, gets sent to find the fallen moon god. But the real MVP, the most critical player, is the goddess Kataziwari. She's the specialist in purification. You see, each god has a very specific role, which really shows you how the Hittites believed in this structured, almost corporate divine world, where everybody has a job to do. And Kataziwari's role is absolutely key here, because the solution to this whole mess isn't going to be brute force. It's something way more nuanced, and this brings us right to the central theme of the myth, the power of ritual. I mean, think about it. How do you actually get a god back up into the sky? In the Hittite worldview, trying to fight him or force him would just create even more chaos. The only solution was basically diplomacy and proper procedure. It was all about persuasion, appeasement, and above all else, sacred ritual. And the whole process was super methodical. Step 1, Habentali had to locate the poor moon god, who was probably terrified. Step 2, Kataziwari gets to work to purify him. She uses all these sacred elements, pure water, incense, special incantations, to literally cleanse the dust of the mortal world from his divine essence. Step 3, they have to appease him, calm him down with offerings and soothing words. And only then, after all that careful work, could they finally restore him to his rightful place in the heavens. So the moon god is back in the sky. Great! But this isn't just a happy ending to a cool story. It actually reveals something really profound about how the Hittites saw their entire universe. So let's get into the deeper philosophical takeaway here, the meaning of order. What this myth really shows us is the absolute core of the Hittite worldview. For them, the universe was this incredibly fragile, interconnected system. Every single being, from the most powerful god down to the humblest person, had a specific place and a specific job. And if just one piece fell out of place, the entire structure was at risk. Order wasn't something you could just take for granted. It was something that needed constant work, constant maintenance through ritual. And here's a really cool human touch to this whole story. On the original clay tablet, which was written in 2 languages, it looks like the scribe got a little distracted. In a blank column where part of the translation should have been, he instead doodled what scholars described as a successful and surrealist lion. It's just a great little reminder that even when you're writing about cosmic crises, people are still people, you know? All of which leaves us with a pretty big question, one that echoes from their ancient world right into ours. Is the order that we experience in our own lives, in our societies, something that's just a given? Or is it, like the Hittites believed, a really fragile state that we all have to work constantly and very carefully to maintain? If you want to take a deeper dive into this myth and a whole lot of others, you can find the full story in our Veritas Antiqua Explainer series. Make sure to follow us for more stories that bring the ancient world to life.